The production of agrofuels was essentially supposed to be a solution to the commonly used fossil fuels that are thought to be the main source of planetary death and environmental destruction. However, the growth process of agrofuels, such as palm oil, have become a main source for greenhouse gas emissions, disease among crops, soil nutrient depletion, and most importantly, the destruction of vital habitat for many animals, especially the orangutan, and in the South Pacific Islands. These animals can only be found in certain areas in the island regions where mass deforestation and monocultures have destroyed water sources and the future farming abilities of the land. The many environmental issues are obviously important in the case against palm oil production. However, there are large social harms to the regions of production and its inhabitants and ecosystems alike. Found in everything from shampoo to donuts, palm oil is now the most common vegetable oil in the world and also one of the world's leading deforestation drivers. Palm oil is extracted from the fruit of the oil palm tree Elias genuensis, which thrives in humid climates. The large majority of palm oil production occurs in just two countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, where huge swaths of tropical forests and peatlands, which are carbon-rich swamps, are being cleared to make way for oil production and plantations, releasing carbon into the atmosphere to drive global warming while shrinking habitats for a multitude of endangered species. The one I'm focusing on is the orangutan. The areas being cleared for palm oil production are particularly rich in carbon. Indonesian forests store even more carbon per hectare than the Brazilian Amazon, thanks to their carbon-rich soil. Palm cultivation there was responsible for 2 to 9% of worldwide emissions from tropical land use between 2000 and 2010. In Malaysia, the carbon stock of tropical forests can range up to 99 million kilograms of carbon per square mile. That's equivalent to the emissions from driving an average car from New York to San Francisco and back 76 times. One huge source of global warming emissions associated with palm oil is the draining and burning of the carbon-rich swamps known as peatlands. Peatlands can hold up to 18 to 28 times as much carbon as forests above them. When they are drained and burned, both carbon and methane are released into the atmosphere, and unless the water table is restored, peatlands continue to decay and release global warming emissions for decades. The burning of peatlands releases a dangerous haze into the air, resulting in severe health impacts and significant economic losses. Each year, more than 100,000 deaths in Southeast Asia can be attributed to particulate matter exposure from landscape fires, many of which are peat fires. Only about 15% of native animal species can survive the transition from primary forest to plantation. Among the species vulnerable to palm oil expansion are orangutans, tigers, rhinoceros, and elephants. Furthermore, palm oil growers have also been accused of using forced labor, seizing land from local populations, and other human rights abuses. There has been significant movement from Southeast Asian governments to address palm oil impacts, though there is still much to be done. In 2010, Indonesia established a moratorium on new concessions for palm oil, timber, and logging operations on primary forests and peatlands. In addition, Indonesia has responded to worsening haze conditions by calling for a halt to clearance and drainage of peatlands, and for the restoration of those already drained. Malaysia has begun to act to protect some of its forests, though its protections thus far have not been as strong as Indonesia's. On the private sector side, the Round Table on Sustainable Palm Oil, or RSPO, was formed to bring oil producers, non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, and other stakeholders together to improve the sustainability of palm oil production. However, current RSPO standards fall short in important respects. For instance, while primary forests are protected under RSPO regulations, Secondary, distributed, or regenerating forests are left unprotected. Peatlands are also given limited protection under RSPO guidelines. So, RSPO certified does not necessarily mean deforestation free. A 2007 assessment by the United Nations Environment Program, or the UNEP, predicts that orangutans will be virtually eliminated in the wild within 2 decades if current deforestation trends continue. The great reddish-brown apes are native to the tropical rainforests of Indonesia and Malaysia, which are being cut down rapidly and in many cases illegally to make way for agriculture and other development. Given that it's rare for adult orangutans supremely adapted to life in trees to ever touch the ground, it's no wonder that forest degradation, fragmentation, and outright clearing, sometimes by intentionally set fires, are the main drivers of the species' population decline. The result has been the loss of some 80% of the orangutan's habitat in just the last 2 decades. While small independent farmers are cutting down rainforest swaths to plant their crops, an even larger problem is the spread of large oil palm plantations, in some cases founded by supposedly forward-thinking international development banks that stretch for hundreds of thousands of acres across formerly diverse rainforests. The Center for Science and the Public Interest, or CSPI, reports that over the last 4 decades, the total land area planted with palm oil in Indonesia has grown some 30-fold to over 3 million hectares, while in Malaysia, oil palm agriculture has increased 12-fold to 3.5 hectares. Poachers are also killing orangutans for food for the so-called bushmeat trade. According to the Orangutan Conservancy, the fact that many Indonesian logging companies do not provide food for their workers exacerbates this problem. It's astonishing to believe that many people didn't know the harms of palm oil production till 2 11-year-old Girl Scouts, Rhiannon Tomtinson and Madison Vorva, brought light to the horrors of palm oil production and the deforestation of rainforests, the natural habitat for orangutans.